I just got done watching the second episode of Bill Nye Saves the World, and in this episode he took on alternative medicine and homeopathy. Again, I didn't sleep very well last night. I didn't sleep at all last night, actually, so I'm just trying to stay awake today. And we'll see how well I do making this video, because I am tired as all heck. So, Bill Nye, in this episode, as I already described, he took on homeopathy and alternative medicine. Now, I'd be very, very hard pressed to find anything that I really disagreed with Bill Nye on in this episode. He really, I think, did this episode quite well. For a 30-minute episode, I think he did a good job. He talked a lot about how, hey, there's a lot of basically charlatans out there selling nonsense. And I have to agree with him. And one of the treatments he really proved that a particular treatment for stomach acid, which he referred to as hippie juice, which I thought was cute, doesn't do anything to make your stomach less acidic. And he did this by basically making stomach acid in a beaker and showing that it doesn't do anything to the pH, whereas milk of magnesia was something that actually works and doesn't cost you an arm and a leg. They also did a little clip where they talked about something called sound therapy, not to be confused with music therapy. And this was basically, some guy yelling at your organs, trying to cure them and saying he could cure cancer and all this other nonsense. And I've pretty much summarized that episode in 2 minutes. But then he also had an expert panel at one point where he brought in 3 quote-unquote experts, and I was really confused by this because he didn't... only one of them seemed to actually do research at, university. One of these 3 experts was a filmmaker, and I was like... And then another one was somebody who writes about science and skepticism. And I'm like, you know what, I am kind of bothered by that because, there's so many of these atheist bloggers out there that think they know about science. They have no clue what they're talking about. And it's not even places where they'll disagree with me. It's they can't get basic science right. So, I would have preferred that his expert panel was, people who are legitimate experts, people who I know their credentials. They're coming in, okay, this is a person who has their PhD in neurobiology and they do research at Harvard University. This other person's an MD and they got their MD over at Johns Hopkins. And this other person is an investigative journalist who's, maybe not a PhD, but has really done a lot to investigate homeopathy and alternative medicine. That I think would have been a lot more fruitful. Now, the one objection I might have that I think could possibly be said about this show is there's a fallacy of hasty generalization. Now, we could talk about cherry picking, we could talk about a lot of things along those lines, and maybe there was that there. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts. But also, hasty generalization might be warranted here because, there's a few treatments that were essentially snake oil. And, screaming at somebody's stomach or screaming at somebody's kidneys isn't going to do anything. Let's be real here. Unless you can prove that it's going to do something, it doesn't do anything. So, I really wonder, if there are... I think, you do have to be careful about, are we, jumping to conclusions, throwing the baby out with the bathwater when, hey, you know what, going and taking a bit of garlic can really get rid of a lot of your symptoms if you have a cold or a flu. Great. But they actually made a good point in the show where they said, alternative medicine that becomes proven, what's that called? It's called medicine. And I think they made a really good point with that one. So I really don't think there's much I can argue with in this episode. And as much as I will disagree with Bill Nye, I'll be the first at times to call him Bill Nye the Nazi guy. I really think he did a good job in this episode, and hope to see more of that as I continue to watch the series. But thanks for watching this video. Be sure to check out my other videos, check out my website, and watch episode 2 of Bill Nye Saves the World. It's on Netflix. This is Greg, out.